Thank you for joining us at Grateful Gratitude with LoLo and Lexie. We are practicing gratitude girls that strive every day to recognize and celebrate our blessings. We are a mother and daughter that practice gratitude every day and put God in the center of our life. The only way to live a blessed and happy life is to be grateful. May you feel God's love and blessing each and every day.
All right, it is time for another episode of Grateful Gratitude with LoLo and Lexie, and today's topic is
transitioning through our seasons. Surely we've all been through some seasons in our time.
Some of us through a lot more seasons than others.
Well, that's what I want to talk about today, about how our life's made up of many changing seasons and, how the seasons are used by God to make us grow. And I think, something that really struck home, I read that plants have to have different seasons in order to go dormant and to, refresh and then to grow and become beautiful.
Well, that's true.
And that's exactly how it is, God, with our seasons. Sometimes we're in a season that we really don't like, or it's a point in our life that we think, why is this happening to me, and why am I going through this difficult time? And it seems sometimes like when it rains, it pours when it comes with problems. Right. So I think we want to talk today about seasons and what we do know about seasons. If you read Ecclesiastes 3, 2 through 8, it talks about, a time to sow, a time to reap, a time to live, a time to die, and, the good and the bads in the seasons. So there's a few things, Lexie, and I thought we might talk about seasons. So the first thing that we need to know is that you have no control over that season.
Yeah, that's the hardest one, I think.
Yeah, I think.
But trying to let go of control, because it's kind of scary when you let go of control.
Well, and I think sometimes seasons change a little quicker than we expect them to. Like,
right.
Today I may be, working, and tomorrow I may lose my job. Sometimes it's things that happen rapidly, or I may be driving down the street and the car in front of me is stopped and I don't see him. It can be some really big things, or a spouse could come home and say, that's it, I don't want to be married anymore. So knowing that we don't have control of that, and that these seasons are going to be very confusing and hard to understand at times, but there is a purpose for them. And the purpose always is God wants us to learn a lesson or teach us a lesson. And when we go through these seasons, it gives us an opportunity to minister to others.
And if you listen to older people, listen to people, not what saying like you, but like me, that have been through this, that are established, that are level-headed.
Right.
You talk to anyone that you respect their opinion, that has lived 20, 30 years longer than you have, they will all tell you the same thing, what you're talking about with the seasons. Yep. That, hey, you live, you learn. And it sounds very basic, but it is extremely, at least for me, I can speak for myself, that was extremely hard for me to understand until I was in my mid-30s.
Yeah, I think even I didn't have the realization until probably 10 years ago. I really didn't. And probably even more profoundly now that we've started Grateful Gratitude, and I'm able to really look back at my life and see why I went through certain seasons, and how God is now using that to help me to minister. And,
I think I've mentioned on here before that I have hung out with a lot of clergy.
Yes, you have.
And hanging out with them, you realize that other people are exactly the same. Everyone goes through issues, everyone goes through problems, and everyone learns from those problems. And you can either be productive and positive coming out of those issues, or you can let the issue control you.
Right. And I think too, I've mentioned before, when I lost that huge account last year, and of course at first I was taken aback, but then I thought, all right, God, what are you telling me? And when I focused back on Him and realized He's in control and He's got my path laid out, that I need to not be anxious and worried, but I need to kind of go with where the season's taking me. And I'll tell you, since that time, we've just had extreme growth with Grateful Gratitude, and God knew exactly where He wanted us to be. One thing, too, is that you need to know that, like I said earlier, there's going to be good and bad. And, you may go into a season with it being good that turns bad, or you may go into one that seems bad to you that may take 3 or 4 years to come out of that season to get the lesson. And I know even like Lexie going through the anxiety and issues she had when she was pregnant with Levi, Man, those were some really tough days for all of us, and especially her.
When I think about it, it was only like really 6 weeks or so.
It really was, yeah.
But it felt like forever. It felt like forever.
But I think of now watching you talk to teenage girls about anxiety, or even women about anxiety. You have the ability to talk about how paralyzing it is and disabling it is, because you've actually walked that. Though we didn't understand at the time.
Right.
I look
at
my
whole life. I remember my whole life I was like, why do I panic so much? I used to get scared whenever my mom would drop me off. I get scared whenever it would rain and I was at school. I get scared that my daycare wasn't going to pick me up after school and things like that. And I would just panic. And it's like, how much time did I waste on panicking? But when I was younger, I was like, why do I feel this way? No one else feels this way. But really, there's more people than we realize. We're not alone. And that's why we need to talk about it.
And like you said, that was just 6 weeks of your life that was really, really bad.
Yeah.
But it changed your life in a very positive way, because of the way you dealt with it, the way you reacted to it. Now you're helping others. It could have gone the other way. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't react the way you reacted, it could have impacted your life in such a negative way. And, being an example for others is so powerful and so important that, like you said, you didn't think other people were going through it. You didn't understand why it was just you.
Yeah. It seemed like no other problem in the world, but they did. It was just like, man, I just don't get it. Why do I wake up feeling like this?
When you realize that you're not the only one that's gone through this, you're not the only one going through it. There are others that have gone through it and successfully gotten through it. It makes you feel so much better, and it should make you feel better knowing that, okay, this is, and it's hard to do while you're in the storm.
Right.
But to realize that, hey, this storm is going to last a very short period of my life. And I've said it on this episode, on this podcast before, but John McCain to me is the perfect example. I'm watching that funeral.
Right.
This is a guy who was in the worst conditions you could possibly imagine for 5 years of his life. But even though it was 5 years and 5 long years, and 5 years is a long time to have to deal with something.
Oh, that's a long time.
But in the whole span of his life, it was just a fraction of his life. So you can go through huge storms and come out the other end and be very successful and be very healthy.
Well, and I think that what Lexie went through too was she profoundly turned to God and gratitude, and she really, as she prayed hard, and I think that was a point where she really built her relationship so much more strongly and deeply with God. Is that right, Lex?
Yeah, I felt every emotion towards God, but I didn't feel. It was mostly, it was all positive, but it was like, it wasn't a why me thing at that point. That was more when I was younger. It was more just like exhausting from literally all the panic attacks I would have in one day. I'd literally feel like I ran like 5 miles, and I was pregnant. So it was just like, I was just like, man, I didn't know if I couldn't look that far in the future because it was scary too. I didn't know. Like, I was like, how do I possibly do this my whole pregnancy? How do I possibly, like, is it going to get better after I have this baby, or is it not? Because then there's postpartum and all this. And it was finally just, like, releasing it. Yeah. And it wasn't releasing it. It was a lot of tools, but it was for a 6-week process of learning how to finally give up that control of, I just wanted to know how it was going to end up. And it's like, dude, you have to just stop. You have to let go and let God, which it just seems so easy, and it's so not, and I struggle with it every day.
As we wrap this up, the most important thing is that we learn something from what we go through, and as tough as it is, you do try to find...
I'm glad I went through that, because I'm the best mom for Levi because of it. I can't imagine if I didn't actually face my anxiety and I had a child, and that there's no way I would know how to handle him.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing is when we figure out a way to serve others for what we've gone through, and to help others as well as people who have helped us in our situations. And I always like Ecclesiastes 11:4, and it says, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant; whoever looks at the clouds will not reap." So we really need to live in each season and not just sit there and mutter through them. We really need to power through and grow as much as we can in the good and the bad. So,
absolutely.
On that note, Mark, we will see you back again.
Okay, real quick, how can people find you guys on social media?
We have Facebook. We're Grateful Gratitude. Website is gratefulgratitude11.com. Our blog is gratefulgratitude.net. Instagram's Grateful Gratitude. So I guess if you just kind of motor through Grateful Gratitude, you'll find us.
All right, super. Until next time.